This guy is a thumper. He's tough and he loves football. That's what Kirby Smart had to say about one of his promising defensive backs. This time it's Kiren Jones. Now, if you don't know who Kiren Jones is, I don't blame you. I don't think the average fan knows who Kiren Jones is, but he was a former three-star kind of running back that signed with Georgia a couple years ago, who is now trying to make his mark in the secondary. He's one of several defensive backs that has a real opportunity to see some playing time. We talked about the secondary in the past, and we'll continue to talk about the secondary throughout the offseason because there's a lot of open competition there, especially at the safety spot and the star position, and that's what Kiren Jones brings to the table. Here's what Kirby Smart had to say about him. We're going to talk about that, talk about the cornerback spot, talk about the new safeties out of the transfer portal. There's a lot to talk about as it relates to Georgia's secondary. But here's what he had to say specifically about Kiren Jones. He said, well, I've seen toughness, number one. He's a thumper, He doesn't always take the perfect angle. He's raw in some things, but he's tough. He does the football. He plays hard, but he's got to keep getting better. Like, he's a kid that we took a chance on because we said, he's a really good athlete. He's really fast. He's got some size, but he had not played defensive back in high school. I don't think a defensive back is a position you can just learn in 1 year. You have to go play. It doesn't happen that way, not unless you grew up playing 7-on-7 and played in the backyard. I mean, Malachi Starks played some safety because that was his 7-on-7 home. But with Kiren, that's been a work in progress. But he's got some toughness, he's made some plays, and he continues to get better. He's physical. Yeah, you need physicality from the safety and star position. You've got to learn how to tackle, but this is another example of what we've been hearing from the coaches in the secondary. I was able to speak with Coach Travaris Robinson, the secondary coach, during the Sugar Bowl. I don't know if you could see that, but during the Sugar Bowl media days, and he said, a lot of the guys we bring in to play in the secondary, they were just the best athlete on their team in high school. So they may have played some quarterback. They may have played some defensive back, but they probably played some wide receiver, some running back as well. So when you get to Georgia and your main focus is just playing on either cornerback, star, safety, whatever it may be, it's going to take a little time, right? And as Kirby said, this is not something you can learn in 1 year, right? And I know Malachi Starks started as a safety in 2022. I know that KJ Bolden started last year as a freshman as well, but those are really special players that don't come around too often. You see them occasionally at Georgia because Georgia's Georgia, and they do go out and get special players pretty consistently, but it's never ideal to throw a freshman out there, especially at cornerback. And that's, I think, a big reason why we haven't seen a ton of Ellis Robinson yet, but I think Ellis Robinson is going to really push Daniel Harris and basically everyone else for that opposite starting cornerback position. I think Dalen Everett, if he continues to improve, he's already a multi-year starter. He could be one of the best in the SEC. But Daniel Harris has had his struggles on the outside and had some struggles last year as well. If he doesn't watch out, Ellis Robinson is going to pass him. DeMello Jones has a chance to pass him. And, that wouldn't surprise me at all. Year two is where a lot of defensive backs make a big stride. Year 2 to year 3, you see another one, right? And with Kiren Jones, maybe this is a time or the year where we see a big step for him, from him, all right? Right? Second, I believe it's the second year in the program. Could be his third. I didn't have that in my notes. He may have been in that 23 class. I'm trying to think. Maybe it was 24. But it doesn't matter. This is a kid who is learning more and more how to play the position. And again, when the first thing that Kirby Smart says out of his mouth when talking about a kid is his toughness, number one, the fact that he loves football, that's a good indicator of, okay, this kid could be a good player. And again, the things he has to work on is really just experience, taking the right angles, learning different coverages, right? He's got the physicality part down. He can make plays. He can make a big tackle. And I think he did have a pick six in one of the cupcake games early in last season, late in the ball game, and the third stringers were able to get in. I think he made a big-time play, if I'm remembering correctly. But he's a kid with a lot of promise. Here's what he had to say about Jaden Harris and Adrian Maddox, the two safeties that they brought in from the transfer portal. First of all, I like Adrian Maddox, the kid from UAB, more than Jaden Harris that came in from Miami. That's just me. Maybe they'll prove me wrong. But here's what Kirby Smart had to say about those incoming freshmen. Oh, they're not incoming freshmen. The incoming transfers that they got at the safety position. He said, quote, "They flashed it, but flashes don't win games. Consistency does." Man, I'm having trouble with my words. Kennesaw State, baby. Let's go. Need more of a cup of coffee. But consistency wins games, not flashes, is what he was trying to say. And as you know, we're looking for some more consistency out of those positions. You all tell me how many snaps we've lost. I don't know, 2,000, right? 1,000 from Malachi Starks and 1,000 from Dan Jackson. They've got a lot, they're missing a lot of snaps. They're missing a lot of experience. And that's what he's talking about with these guys. He said, "I know KJ played a good bit, but there's still a lot of snaps missing out there. And these guys are coming into a defensive scheme that requires heavy communication. And we're not going to let the offense dictate to us. So we have a lot of things we have to do to create an advantage when an offense does something. You've got to be able to communicate to do that." Now, obviously the staff liked these two, in college. That's why they brought them in. But they still have to learn Georgia's scheme. They still have to learn what to do. They still need to trust their teammates and be able to work with the guys around them and be able to communicate every little thing because it's not an easy defense to grasp. And that's why it was so impressive what Malachi Starks did as a freshman, what KJ Bolden did as a freshman last year. And, we're seeing kind of experienced guys who've been around a little bit not be able to hold down a starting spot. We've seen Janelle Aguero come in and make plays here and there, but he hasn't locked down a starting position. Ja'Cory Thomas has been around for like 4 years now at the safety spot. We've seen him a little bit, but he hasn't been able to lock down a position. Those two guys are fighting for jobs, right? Freshman Todd Robinson, I don't think he's going to start, but I think he's a guy that Georgia fans need to keep an eye on. As for Janelle Aguero, here's what Kirby Smart had to say about him. He said, "I see Janelle getting better day by day, and he's working hard. He's becoming more vocal, which is tough for him. He's not a vocal kid. He doesn't like to talk and open up, but he's getting better at it." So that's, big for him. If you don't communicate, you're not going to play, right? You have to know what everyone else is doing around you. You have to know the playbook while bringing that physicality standpoint to the team, right? So you have to be able to do a lot of different things and know that defense by heart. And, it's not easy for a new freshman or a transfer portal kid to come in and learn right away, right? But it's clear that there's a lot of talent in the secondary. There's a lot of hungry players, and there's a lot of opportunity for guys like Janelle Aguero to say, "You know what? This is my year. I've been around for a few years now. I'm going to hold down this starting job." Or Kiren Jones saying, "You know what? I know what I'm doing now. I was always physical, but now I understand the concepts, the defense, what I'm supposed to do in coverage. I can play here. I can play there. This is my job to take." If I'm Ellis Robinson, I'm doing everything I can to say, "You know what? I came here for a reason. I want to be the next great Georgia corner. This is my time. Sorry about it, Daniel Harris. I'm better than you, right? I'm practicing better than you. I'm showing I can make more plays than you. This is my starting job," right? Maybe it's DeMello Jones saying, "Wait a second. I'm really good too. Sorry, Daniel Harris. Sorry, Ellis Robinson. I'm the guy who's going to take the starting spot," right? So again, it's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out. But at the end of the day, Kirby knows this group has to get better and get better quick, because it's not easy to replace Malachi Starks and Dan Jackson. I don't know if they can, right? That's a lot of experience, a lot of snaps, a lot of plays that they made that someone else is going to have to make, right? And we're assuming KJ Bolden gets better. We're assuming Dalen Everett gets better, which I think is safe to assume. But, if one of those guys for whatever reason goes down for a game or two or more, someone else is going to have to step up. So there's a lot of guys, and they brought in a lot of incoming freshmen. I believe they signed 4 or 5 at least defensive backs in this last recruiting cycle. And again, you don't want to have to lean on those guys and depend on those guys, but you should say to yourself, okay, we brought these transfers in for a reason. We didn't bring them in to sit on the bench very long. We need these guys to play. And that's what this spring is all about. So this is a massive, massive spring for not only the new guys, but for the coaches to implement the system, make sure these guys learn it early, and to get them caught up to speed as far as the standard that's set in the secondary, the way they practice, the way they compete, because that's what's going to get them on the field. Knowing the defense, knowing everyone else's responsibility, and showing it in practice, bringing that toughness and that physicality standpoint, but also the mental aspect of knowing what you're doing, reacting before thinking. And at the end of the day, you got to make plays, especially plays on the ball, in the air, down the field. And a lot of these guys have the ability and the potential to do it. But this spring, they need guys to stand out and they need guys to kind of elevate themselves. We'll see if they can do it. It might take until fall practice for someone to really emerge. But this spring is big, and that's just a few notes on what Kirby Smart said about Kiren Jones, a guy you may not know a ton about, the incoming safeties, and a few others. Thanks for watching. You can read more about this and more over on Dawg Post, okay? Make sure you're on the website reading about all of this and everything else Kirby Smart had to say. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you over on the website.